playing Ultimate Custom Night, the real game. Now, I'm trying to make it like this. Look, I gotta move this. Okay, see, I'm making this right here. I'm trying to make like a hole so we can do every single animatronic. But not every single one, but just a hole. Like this, see. But today, we're gonna do, wait, difficult to see on the list, or the, he, like, I don't know how that's a he. He will make his way toward your office, listening for the sound. Well, then, most of it. I bet that's gonna be easy, and I don't know what to do with him. Well, you have to do that, but that's okay. It takes like 200. He's pretty hard because I didn't even get 20 bad coins. So he's pretty hard. You might need to, I promise you might need to. But then, that's all we got, I think. Yeah, that's all we got. And we got Ultimate Custom Night, so that's all we got. Okay, so we're gonna take all these people off. That I don't like when that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Bonnie. Okay. There we go, baby. Oh. Let's go. No, actually, person bossed us, but we can do that in a sec. Yeah, we have Minecraft. This person bossed us. Yeah. I don't really need to update it. Not really. Whoa, the stupid daily board. Whoa, what is that? Oh, man. Connecting to a server. Okay, I have 21 balls. Ball, what are you doing? Bro, get a star power for ball to unlock. Okay. It's gonna be pretty hard, but okay. Oh! The 3. 2? 2 again? I have 137 points. See how much balls I have? I'm sorry, I'm screaming. No. Oh! Move white. Daily board again. Ball. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate you, daily board. Move. No, I ain't got no daily board. No. I ain't. Here's the season. Gems. Oh, that's good. See if they will. See if they. Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do some challenges. Okay. I'm gonna do some challenges. Okay. Let's go. Whoa, look at their shoes. They look so small. What are you doing? Are you doing? Oh, I was about to say, are you doing some challenges or what? What happens if you press the screen recorder? Boom, 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 boom. We got good health right now. Let's stay in the bush. So we can be the last. Whoa. Well, why did it say that? I don't like when it says that. Toxic. Well, where are you going? Well, go get him. Whoa. Get it, baby. Whoa! The stupid thing. Close. Why? You stupid daily boy. I'm never looking at that again. Get it, baby. That was a challenge. How did that not count? It was our challenge. Whoa. I'm gonna say. I'm recording. Because. Oh no. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. What is that? Let's back up. But why is it so close? This is no scope. 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 That this is no scope. Wait, I'm recording. Yes, I am.
Why? You don't post a video of somebody like talking in the background. You don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
Just try it again. Just make another one.
No, it's still gonna record, so don't move.
Just stop it and make another one.
I can't because I'm putting my blower on.
Well, don't post it. Post it
No.
on YouTube. Stop. This is why.
What? What you talking about?
You keep trying to mock me.
Your left? Turn it off. Get ready to go to bed. Do it. And for y'all to go to bed, because I'm going.
Okay. PS3 in 2018.
So what are you guys currently playing on a PlayStation or Xbox One, PC? We can all pretty much agree that we play on PS5. Well, now that we're in the year 2018, not a lot of people are actually playing on that old dinosaur. But I want to change all the way up to the current year that we're on right now. Has updated services. I don't really know, and I'm sitting here. Also, PlayStation 3 holding up. I mean, I got one, but it's not like I currently play on it still. I mean, I don't have many reasons. I'm pretty sure you guys feel the same way as well. So, in today's video, we're going to be logging into my PlayStation 3 account. So, real quick, I just want to let you guys know that yesterday your boy had some Chinese.
Who in the bathroom?
I actually went ahead and
Not me.
watched it with me.
Who just come out of there?
Every single person.
Did you go in there? Did you go in the bathroom?
No, I
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Good night, Mom. You didn't go pee, so go in
I
there.
just did.
So you were lying when you put Ricky. Oh, I don't know. So you were just lying. So you want me to tell? Was you lying?
I closed the door. But I don't need to pee anymore.
But did you leave the light
You
on?
play Hello Neighbor?
But did you leave the light on?
No.
Oh, you peed when I played Hello Neighbor?
Yes.
But that was a long time ago, so go pee.
I don't need to.
We'll go.
My pee doesn't need to.
So, we'll try.
I need to pee.
We'll go.
I need to.
Yes, you do. Don't say nothing.
Mom.
Jackson, go to the bathroom.
Hey, man. Why would I tell you to go to the bathroom, man? What's wrong with you? Huh? Well, get in and use the bathroom. You gotta use the bathroom, boy. Looking like you need to put a diaper on, like a little baby.
All you need to do is just go ahead and drop a like on the video and subscribe, and that's pretty much does it. You guys don't want to risk it. You have literally nothing to lose, and you want that girl, you're gonna need to get some luck on your side. That's it. But anywho, let's go on ahead and get started with the video. Oh my god, I haven't heard that sound in freaking forever. Oh my god, man. Holy crap. So getting used to the PS4 is weird. England. Where's my British accent? What's up, what's going on, Corey Kitchen here? Welcome to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Valhalla. I mean, Thor, Odin, I don't know if they in the game, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla is all here. We are Vikings now, which, when I heard that announcement, I'm like, how are they about to do this? But we're about to find out. I want to give a shout out to Ubisoft. Thank you guys for sponsoring the video. Check out Assassin's Creed Valhalla in the link down below.
Don't tell him. He did it.
The coronavirus pandemic has sparked a global war, scrambling.
Say goodnight, Tonzi.
Well, I'm glad you
Hello?
Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 3 blew up this trilogy
Cause
with
this is me, I'm not the
more
same.
villains, more effects, and more meaningful moments. You'll get your rent when you fix it. Damn good. You know, actually, that last one is more important than you think. How all of the moments in this movie deserve re-examination. But despite insane studio pressure, Raimi still managed to film this film with tons of fascinating overlooked visual detail. Here, New Rockstar Zon loves more of weekly retro rewatches.
I haven't been home though.
And so the Raimi trilogy as a successor to Ark. No, Spider-Man 3 opens with another web-framed recap montage. Even before the Venom symbiote infects everything, Peter's realm is already in shadow, definitely compared to its predecessor. Reflecting how the darkness that overtakes Peter in this film is already inside him. His ego, his lack of empathy, and his vengeance. Our first shot of Spider-Man is actually re-sampled footage from the final swing sequence of Spider-Man 2. But with all those warm color tones, Peter watches this on a screen from the street, and we are reminded of those final moments from the previous film and its secretly dark undertone. The tiger going getting him, oblivious to MJ's concern, the blindness that poisons him in this film. Peter is blinded by loving headlines, including one written by Ray Frank, an homage to Spider-Man comic inker Frank Nicoya, who went under the name Frank Ray. And Peter's blinded by the Blondie in Dr. Connor's class, Gwen Stacy, which is reflected by the literal blinding distraction of his bullies, which is actually a quick flash of earlier. Spitballs and flashes in high school, spitballs and flashes in college. Ivy League science class. Okay. But first, do you want to be the hero of your own fantasy? Of course you do, and that's why you should play Raid Shadow Legends. It is a game where dark fantasy meets realism, and where a lizard man meets a frozen banshee. Guess what? They don't get along. Raid is free to download and play, and available on both mobile and desktop. I like to play in the dungeon battles, where you can get a squad of your champions, and you get to take on a boss and his goons for a great reward. Ooh! You can upgrade your champions and outfit them with cool artifacts that make them stronger. You can join a clan and fight the clan boss, and you can jump in the arena to fight against other raid players. And now the brand new Tag Team Arena is live in game. Tag Arena is the next level of competition.
That game is fire.
Player battles.
That game is fire. That game is really good.
Four battles, not exactly a big battle
Nobody can beat that
but
game.
it's close you can get with Dark Elves and Skinwalkers. And
That game is the
brand
best
new
mobile
developers will be giving out some special rewards soon to whoever
You
has
just said,
the
if you
highest
can show
rankings.
another
You can find me
day,
in one of the
The only reason you want to download it
So what are you waiting
because I said
for?
it
Go to
was
the
good.
live video description, click on the special links, and if you're a new
Because you
player,
just said
you
2
get
seconds
50,000
ago,
silver,
oh, Chris
50
wants
gems,
that
1
stupid
energy refill,
game.
1 play boss,
Yes,
5
But now
recharge,
you're like, oh, I
1
want to
day
download
XP
that.
booster, and 1
I
free
said
champion.
not
That
stupid.
champion is Shannon, and she's really great for kicking butt in the early stages of the game. All the
Well, it looks like that you don't want to see that game, so why are you going to
because the
download it?
rewards will be available only for the next 30 days.
Yes,
Good luck,
he's
and I'll see
talking
you.
about
MJ
me.
sings Irving Berlin's They Say It's Wonderful, and Peter
No,
don't
because
sing along the words, and he doesn't realize the lyrics are actually lamenting, coming from someone idealizing the concept of love without having
Well,
experienced the
watch
real thing
this.
themselves. And in his literal blind spot is the John Wilkes
This
Booth
was
of
2
the
days
Opera
ago.
Harry Osborn, pale and clammy, showing that he is definitely following in his father's footsteps with the
I think you
physical
already watched
transformation.
this.
Afterwards, Peter tells MJ
It
the
was 2
applause
days
was
ago. I
louder
haven't
than he
watched
thought.
it yet.
But see, Christy,
I've been
all
watching
about
Bird Pool.
confusion. It keeps the sound wave from
And I've been at my brother's house 2 days ago.
then it's like an
Peter's knowledge of the physics of sonic frequencies sets him up figuring out Venom's weakness in the final act, looping sound waves to destabilize the symbiote. Harry's goblin cave includes a silver and gold goblin mask, a nod to the hobgoblin identity from the comics, though technically Harry Osborn in this movie is listed as the new goblin, the snowboard. Peter and MJ stargaze with one of the shooting stars containing the symbiote. This final perfect night broken with a curse wish, because literally in the next 24 hours, Harry will attack Peter, MJ will get fired from her show, and Eddie Brock will threaten Peter's career. This toxic symbiote is designed to have a more pliable, stickier, doughy texture than the more liquidy ooze of the comics. It has animalistic movement that grasps and latches onto its prey, and that grasp is reflected in the black suit spider logo, with its legs bent inward like claws. Now the word Venom is never actually spoken in this film, but the Venom V logo does make a subtle cameo in the way that it first makes contact with Peter, latching onto his plate, forming a V shape. Flint Marco's Sandman wears his iconic green and brown outfit. He's got a sick kid, Penny Marco, all this from the comics. And he says,
Not a bad person. Just have that line.
later after Peter snaps at his landlord about his damn door, Mr. Dinkovich says,
He is
You ain't getting your rent due with the damn door.
there's a parallelism there. Both Flint and Peter are in a way responsible for Ben Parker's death, and that parallelism here is designed to teach Peter forgiveness in this film. Peter's moped helmet still has the torn off Joe's Pizza sticker, and when they fight, Harry tears a chunk out of the building wall. When it flips on the other side, it's like the interior wallpaper, all of it mostly in fact cleanly stuck to the brick plaster there. Peter ends up using Harry's own drone against him, slingshotting it back so that Harry misses the tripwire. Now, Harry's amnesia in this movie made him forget
Why?
this particular
Why would you
move.
ask
That's
that?
why later he's caught off guard when Peter uses it on him again. Kathy Harry says this about Peter and MJ,
give my life for them.
which he does later. Now, MJ is upset about her bad reviews, but Peter keeps making this about him.
Try to understand how he feels. I look at these words. It's like my father wrote them.
Peter can't understand because after the first movie, he blocked out MJ's father yelling at him. Were you listening to that?
No. Well, I heard, but I was just taking out the trash.
I get the smell there.
Everybody shouts.
And Peter still kind of has that boyish immaturity. He minimizes her real pain with stupid "get back on that horse" pep talks. No empathy, just assuming the headlines will swing back up for her as they did for him. Like Sandman and Venom, his friend Harry, Peter's conflict with MJ is an amorphous target that you can't really web together with a simple fix. Some wounds just go too deep. This movie is all about detox, the long, ugly process of true healing, and how usually it gets worse before it gets better. Also note how this scene begins.
It's stuck again?
Peter's broken damn door is a toxic wound, a metaphor that festers and festers until
You'll get your rent when you fix this asshole.
then only later when he completely breaks that handle, letting Aunt May in, does he open himself up to change and the wound begins to heal. Peter saves Gwen from an evil construction crane, where we meet her father, Captain Stacy, and Eddie Brock.
Edward Brock Jr. I work at Daily Doodle. And I'm dating your daughter.
I love this because both are lies. He doesn't yet work at the Bugle as a full-time employee. He's a freelancer, but he's mentioned in the first movie.
Problem is, we don't have it. Eddie's been on it for weeks. We barely get a glimpse of it.
And he and Gwen are not dating.
Not that amazing
We had coffee at 8.
And if you think about it, that night ended with Gwen not staying the night due to a gig the next morning.
I don't know. I just saw her last night. She said she had a modeling gig.
You'll notice the Bugle offices frame of past front pages of previous movies. Spider-Man, Green Goblin terrorized Bugle from the Attack of the First film. Doc Ock still at large.
This is like 10
As well as
hours.
Spider-Man No More. And Stan Lee makes one of his all-time best cameos.
You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
Peter takes Harry home.
That's
For the homecoming present.
It's 18 minutes.
To a ball.
SpongeBob is 30 minutes.
We actually saw this in their shared apartment in the first movie. And you'll notice Harry now wears
Yeah, but 18 minutes
jacket,
is
a red
less.
sweater,
18 minutes is not
the
even that
very
long.
first time on that field trip. And all these
So
reminds
it's pretty long.
It's pretty long, but it's not.
Harry also hung up a portrait
This
of his
is.
father. The portrait he's sitting in that same chair that's right there. You know, Harry was sitting there, but he's daddy.
It's
looking at
close to
Harry
20,
looking
so
at me.
talking about.
Amazing! Now, there was that woman in black who hung there in that same frame in the first film. It was either Harry's mother or his grandmother, which led to Norman Black's dress kink, and why he gave MJ a looky-loo after Harry made her wear black at Thanksgiving. And it's a weird thing. Peter's cocky dancing actually starts early in this movie. Actually, there's this drummer who reached out to me on Twitter,
What is
Chris
some of
Romero,
this Will
who said
TV?
that the marching band was his actual high school band from Fort Chester, New York, and you can hear them playing the 60s animated Spider.
We rely on government to keep this country running, especially now. So making sure they have the most reliable one is critical.
Bro, there's nothing on this freaking bed. Why are you feeling? Those aren't crumbs. Those are the lint from the pillow.
I hate those.
It's lint. It's
So I hate those.
it's from the pillow.
That's what I hate.
What if that's dirt from you? Cause you're
I
dirty.
don't hate.
What if it is?
Let's see.
How? Cause I took a bath. I took a bath.
You take it off all the time.
I took a bath this morning. And today. And before you came. And I went to a pool. And what did
You
you
didn't
do?
even know anything.
And what did you do?
Spider-Man scene.
Yeah, you didn't do anything, did you? But what you
Yeah,
do?
Peter also snuck
What's
in
that big E?
Sam, call back to it.
I just told you.
That's how you did it.
Finds MJ. Hey, beautiful.
The Biggie
One
sofa?
more.
The Biggie sofa?
And you notice on MJ was happy for a second.
That is not
to
the
be
Biggie
complimented
sofa.
the stranger who actually likes her, but then realized it was just her boyfriend. You always have to say that, and that's why Peter's second photo is her brief disappointment. Instead, he left just an
they go
in-focus
to
photo
eight.
of a banner calling him mighty. And he ends up humiliating his girlfriend by giving Gwen he and MJ's upside-down kiss.
It's
Instead of
always
giving a thumbs up,
open.
but he inverts it to thumbs up from our perspective.
thought it was
Although for him, the thumbs down is accurate because this is a big mistake, Peter. Now, one of the armored truck guards is actually a cameo by producer Grant Curtis. His name actually
Why
also
are you
appeared on a
crying?
Roman newspaper in the first film. Spider-Man punches through Sandman's midsection, inspired by
Cause you
comic
went to the
imagery,
Biggie.
actually pulled off this effect with martial arts expert and amputee Baxter Humby. And when Peter dumps the sand out of his boots later, I love how you can see stirrups on his pant legs to keep them from riding up. Clever. Bruce Campbell returns as a maitre d' at the restaurant after playing the wrestling announcer and snooty usher in the previous film. Who's going to set him up as the failed actor Quentin Beck Mysterio in the prologue of the fourth film, but it never happened. Peter tells him to play MJ's song from the show she was just fired from, which again was a much sadder song that he doesn't really get the lyrics of. And even though he doesn't know she was fired, he would have had to sing the song like 8 times a week, and then hundreds of times before that at rehearsal. It's just a terrible choice in every way. And then he's so smug as he rehearses his reactions to this proposal. How's that kid in there? And later, turns from sweet to acidic after his dark turn. Peter Norman Osborn's own proposal. And when he fishes out the ring from the champagne, you can actually see the original spider bite scar on his hand, the gift and the curse that doomed his personal relationships. That curse rots as his vengeance turns on Flint and Marco. His memories trigger him with flashes and camera shutter sound effects. A photographer's mind snapping photos of the past, and until they fully expose
Oh, no, I'm not gonna
the
fix
condition
it.
into blinding rays.
You flip it
and
over.
monochromatic memory.
So?
A black and white suit devoid of color is whirled upside down. Peter gets revenge on Marco. He grinds the guy's head into the train. And if you go through this frame by frame, you can actually see how the VFX artist animated Marco's teeth flying out of his jaw. Yeah, Peter's delivering the pain equivalent of pulling teeth. Peter goes emo, and yeah, let's go for the turkey here.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
On MJ's phone are the names Arlacher, Getzinger, and Gelfman. They're all people who worked in the prop department on this film. Nice, enough their names on the phone there. Randazzo is also someone who worked payroll on the movie. Though, there is some wordplay here because Julia Gelfman Randazzo was also the name of an actress known for her work in the film Deconstructing Harry, which is the subplot of, well, Harry Osborn here. But as Peter is re-triggered with his vengeance memory, so is Harry.
First, we attack his heart.
Call back to Norman's demon voice telling him that in the first film.
First, we attack his heart.
Harry forces MJ to dump Peter, and then he taunts Peter.
She was fired, she told you. She didn't tell me.
Now, this is a reversal from the first film, when MJ worked as a waitress and told Peter, don't tell Harry, who was her boyfriend then, and now it's a game of don't tell Peter. And then this gem,
Count the time.
and then he magically disappears behind the truck. The guy behind him's like, the hell? Why are you standing behind that wall, dude? And Frank is like, I'm getting my friend so good. So good. Then Raimi reveals Peter in Harry's window with a similar camera move that he did for Doc Ock in the previous film, and then they fight.
Protect you in high school now, I'm gonna kick your little ass.
Peter's reaction is actually hilariously sincere, because back when Peter did get jumped in high school, Harry stayed on the sidelines.
Harry?
Which one? And Peter taunts,
Look at little Kaufman Jr. No cry.
and then he flings a grenade back at Harry, torching Harry's face the same way Norman did to Peter in the final act of the first film. You can actually see Harry's body going flying as Peter walks away. Yeah. Peter sees Eddie's doctored photo on the Google front page.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Comedian Dean Edwards cameos there. And on the lower banner of that newspaper reads, minor quakes felt throughout the subway, referring to Peter's fight with Marco on the train. But think about it, this is the first time Peter was written up for something bad he actually did. Of course, Jameson had to retract the doctored photo. They didn't have to prove a full retraction exonerating Spider-Man. Think about it, Spider-Man would at least be guilty of like aggravated assault. Peter crafts his DB goals champagne toast for a new staff photographer. I don't think they do that, but okay.
Trash property.
On Eddie's desk is an already framed photo of Gwen, a girl who made it clear they were not dating, and then Peter humiliates Eddie.
You want forgiveness? Your religion?
In doing so, Peter creates his own demon, sending Eddie to the church, where Eddie will get the venom dripped on him. Behind Dr. Connors is a reptilian skeleton, a nod to his planned future as the lizard in the fourth film that never happened. And Peter snatches back that bugle job, and as he sits at Jameson's desk, I love the reaction of Betty Brant through the window there. Yeah, please, a nerdy rogue photographer. And then Peter's black suit and his dancing. Oh, it's enough to feed an army on Tumblr, right? But notice those clearance signs on the store. Yeah, this is meant to be pathetic because Peter's broke. He could only afford new clothes that were on sale. That's the joke here. Raimi wants us to cringe at this because this is what a nerd like Peter thinks is cool. Raimi's not trying to be cool here. He knows how to make characters look cool when he wants to, but really, he's an expert in cringe body horror. That is the gross transformation we're looking at here. The Jazz Club is the horror movie equivalent of the cursed a-hole bleeding out on everyone. And it's why Raimi includes his horror partner in crime, Evil Dead 2 co-writer Scott Spiegel, in this moment. They're both reveling in this horror. And it's why it ends with the most horrific violence in any of these movies. He just hits MJ. Yeah, rock bottom, folks. He's as bad as this movie's 12 villains. And that prompts his first real step toward detox, using the bell frequency to remove the symbiote, which then binds to another desperate soul who's also at rock bottom, Eddie Brock. Peter cleanses himself with a shower and he's back to square one, gazing up at MJ through a window, just like he did from his bedroom in the first movie. Eddie Brock Venom suspends MJ's taxi in a web with the message, Spider-Man, stop us if you can, written in the same font from the sensational Spider-Man comics. This construction site setting and composer Christopher Young's Sandman music was inspired by an episode of the animated Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Sam Raimi's son, Lauren and Henry cameo. And his daughter, Emma, cameos as the girl that sells things to the camera. And film extra. That's what you are. Harry saves Peter by taking the same blow that killed his father. You know the one.
Oh.
And Peter uses sound waves to destabilize the symbiote off Eddie, but Eddie is too far gone.
Not like being mad. It makes me happy.
Eddie is the foil to Peter on this detox journey. Too addicted to the toxin to let go of it. And at that last second, you can see Eddie's skeleton vaporize. And after seeing his dark foil, Grizzly, and Peter turns to a foil with more mixed morals like him, Flint Marko, who reveals Ben's shooting was an accident. And Peter realizes that they're both equally guilty of this.
Done terrible things too.
So when Peter says,
I forgive you.
really taking Aunt May's advice and he's forgiving himself. The trilogy comes full circle with the ending of the first movie, An Osborn Funeral, and Flash Thompson and Joe Manganiello return from the first movie here. So while the previous two movies ended with triumphant sunset swings, this movie ends on a quieter note. MJ forgiving Peter. Peter's face is actually a mix of relief and pain. He doesn't get the gift here. He knows he's lucky to get this much. Small step. That's how we grow. Look, I know it's fun to dunk on this movie. It definitely isn't perfect. Sam Raimi himself later said it was awful. I think that's a pretty respectable thing for a great filmmaker to say. Personally, I've always believed that it's the harder and more rewarding path to investigate and celebrate the artistry. And Sam Raimi did so many great things in this movie that I am stoked he's getting a second chance at Marvel with Doctor Strange 2. Join our future weekly watch-alongs on Discord by becoming a patron at patreon.com/newrockstars. Oh, you're coming back. What do you actually do next? Follow me on Instagram at EABoss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe for breakdowns of everything you love. Thanks for watching. And hey, if I said something you disagreed with in this video, try not to comment down below with "Hi!" Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 triumphs by kicking its hero's ass. Tobey Maguire takes such a beating in this film that you just want to scream in frustration with everyone else. That frustration is exactly what makes Spider-Man 2 my favorite Spidey film. A movie that, like The Dark Knight, inspired younger me to spend my adulthood obsessively rewatching superhero movies, which is why I was stoked a month ago when you guys voted these movies your top requests to re-explore. So let's dive back into Spider-Man 2, scene by scene, hell, frame by frame, for all the Easter eggs, cameos, and subtle filmmaking details that you might have missed. And it's okay, I missed some of these at first too. The opening titles feature comic book imagery recapping the first film with the artwork by the great Alex Ross. Some of Ross's Spider-Man comic art makes subtle cameos later to police photos and Harry Osborn's research on Spider-Man. And we transition from Ross's brushstrokes of MJ's eyes to what we think is her face, but what is actually a misdirect perfume billboard taunting Peter Parker with unattainable love. This face bookends the film as its closing shot. Woman Peter must turn his back to in order to be the hero, the responsibility of his great power. Another visual example of Peter's back turned to MJ, the flower stand where he later buys flowers for MJ, is behind him here, next door to his new job at Joe's Pizza. Pizza time! Comedian Asif Manvi plays Mr. Aziz. If you actually watch this movie slowly, you can barely see how they snuck in another haunting MJ perfume ad on the bus Peter nearly hits. You cannot escape her. Chappelle Show comedian Donnell Rawlings shows up.
He stole that guy's pizza.
And the guy who steals a slice of not deep dish pizza is Scott Spiegel, co-writer of Evil Dead 2 with Sam Raimi. He shows up in the jazz club in the next movie. God, I'm sorry you had to be there for that. And despite Peter's charming greeting,
Pizza time.
future Bone star Emily Deschanel holds him to the 29-minute guarantee. Now, the phone number on his helmet sticker is the real phone number for Joe's Pizza in New York. And yes, the address on Bleecker Street is nearby 177A Bleecker Street. the Sanctum Sanctorum residence of Doctor Strange,
Someone-
whom, according to J. Jonah Jameson, exists in this movie's universe.
Something on the pillow.
Peter gets back-to-back
All of this
sacks.
is lit. It's from the pillow.
Yeah, Peter cannot catch a break in this film, and I cannot think of a superhero movie that so tortures its hero with failure after failure in all kinds of little ways. Now, sure, in Infinity War they lose half of everyone, and in Dark Knight he loses Rachel, but those losses are balanced out by sexy wins throughout the rest of those movies. There's nothing sexy about Spider-Man 2. This guy's broke, humiliated, impotent. Any win he ekes out has an asterisk. This is all Raimi showing how heroism is pain. Now, Peter tries to hold off selling Jameson a Spidey photo until...
Alright, run a picture of a rancid chicken. Here's the headline. Food poisoning scare, Sweet City. Food got poisoned? I'm a little nauseous, yeah.
Alright, Mr. Jameson.
Yeah, Peter has to give in to stop fake news from sparking a citywide panic. It's also because he's broke, but you know, he tried here. The second asshole Columbia student to smack him is a cameo by Sam Raimi himself. Then we meet Dr. Connors. After his mention in the first film, Dr. Connors is an amputee and was meant to set him up in a future film to try to regrow his arm and become the Lizard. And yeah, over a year ago, some fans spotted how Peter has to duct tape his backpack strap to keep it all together. It's not exactly mind-blowing though, because as a high school student in 2004, this is just something we all try to do to look cool and be hero. Play out messages and hold duct tape promises. Weird. Now Aunt May rubs in the guilt about Uncle Ben.
2 years, that's what
Ooh, sneaking passive voice. Not since that mugger shot him, but since he was taken from me by the universe and all the asshole bad Samaritans in it. Was it you, Peter? Was it you? Peter's landlord is Mr. Ditkovich. Raimi has always said Ditkovich's name was a nod to Spider-Man co-creator Steve Ditko. And in Peter's flat, the MJ photo behind him is not one of the photos he took of MJ on the field trip, as has been incorrectly stated. It was actually a promo set photo of Kirsten Dunst from the first film. However, you can actually see one of the field trip photos later into his mirror. The great Alfred Molina plays Dr. Otto Octavius, and Daniel Day Kim plays his assistant. Now, Peter and Otto trade nerdy references.
Bernoulli sleep before he found the curves of quickest descent.
Actually, back in 04, my high school geometry teacher was obsessed with this line, and he explained how Peter is actually referencing the physics of his own swing. Bernoulli proposed that the fastest way to get from A to B could actually be a curved motion using the forces of gravity. And then a month ago, when I talked about Tom Holland Peter applying classroom physics in Homecoming, some of you tweeted me a Reddit post saying, yeah, Toby did the same thing, but as the comments of that post and my geometry teacher correctly explained, for Bernoulli's Berkey's-Caron to apply, Peter's web length would have to change as he swings, which it usually doesn't. It's a taut radius of a circle. Yet, however, when I actually rewatch this movie slowly, later, Peter does use the elasticity of his web, its fluctuating length due to gravity, to slingshot the clock tower and back at Otto. He ahas his mentor with the physics they previously geeked out over to punch his clock. Checkmate. Really, to be honest, math was not my strong suit. I was more of a Rosie.
And I was trying to explain the theory of relativity. And Rosie was trying to explain T.S. Eliot.
T.S. Eliot famously ended his 1925 poem, The Hollow Men, with the line, "This is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but with a bang." And during the Cold War, this poem was considered eerily prophetic for its relevance to nuclear annihilation. Similar fusion tech that spells out Octavius's doom, which, thankfully for the city, comes not with a bang, but with a whimper. And speaking of icky lit, MJ's play is Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, which is about a man living a double life. The name Ernest itself being a pun about his lack of earnestness. And you probably notice how the dialogue obviously reflects Peter and MJ's situation.
Then you think we should forget them? Yes. I mean, no. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
But if you've actually read this play, this insincerity theme doesn't stop with the guy. Every character in the play is full of it. It's just like how this metaphor is really about MJ, whose attraction to Peter is really based on his mysterious unknowns. Huge red flags? Not a deal breaker. Now, Peter's late after stopping a chase, he dangles the two criminals from the light pole right beside a chandelier store. Because, you know, they're hanging from the light like they're like chandeliers. Sam Raimi collaborator Bruce Campbell cameos again as the snooty usher.
No one will be seated after the doors are closed.
Bruce played the wrestling announcer in the first film and the restaurant host in the third. Much speculation that he was being set up as wannabe actor Mysterio. There's actually concept art drawn out for a scrapped fourth Raimi film that would have opened with Spider-Man booking Mysterio. 2 years ago, fans spotted that you can see how Peter briefly considers webbing that usher. The real detail behind this is that this movie's early script draft and novelization included Peter actually webbing up Bruce Campbell, but then only making it into the play for the final scene. So we missed it. Outside, there's this violin busker playing the 60s Spider-Man theme. And the show poster behind MJ raves, Jay Frazier is especially effective, a nod to John Frazier, who was part of the team who won an Oscar for their special effects work on the film. Peter shares an elevator with Hal Sparks. Phil Lamar actually auditioned for this cameo. He ended up doing an uncredited cameo on the train. Now, Molina nicknamed the Doc Ock arms Larry, Harry, Mo, and Flo. Flo was the top right one used for more delicate functions like handling the tritium, and later removing the sunglasses, lighting a cigar. And at the base of this incredibly dangerous fusion reaction in the middle of a city is a pool of water. Now, this is used probably as a coolant, foretelling his future solution to the problem later.
The river. Drown it.
Everything goes wrong the moment Octavius invokes Icarus.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Okay, now his hand loses its contents the second he tries to reassure everyone.
Keep calm! It's only a spike! It'll soon stabilize!
Watch zipping into the fusion. Because Peter distracts Otto, Otto fails to contain the biggest energy spike, the one that bends the windows and kills Rosie. Was it you, Peter? And I love Raimi's shot with Rosie reflecting on the glass right before it goes into her eye, echoed later with the reflection of Peter in Otto's eye as that threatens and towards him. Now, my second favorite scene in the movie is one Raimi took months to design, Doc Ock's awakening in the hospital. This is true Raimi horror, evoking the tree branch drag in Evil Dead 2. Raimi even includes a close-up of Ash's iconic weapon, the chainsaw, and he mixes in a solid bone snap sound effect when the arm grabs the surgeon's leg. And one of the surgeons is a cameo by horror director John Landis. And one of my favorite details that I only caught by actually rewatching this again in slow motion, when the arms are docile under Otto's control, their claw lights are white. But when they are in control in evil, the lights go red. And we see this again later when he regains control of them in the final act. Hey, you may be able to relate with Peter Parker's frustration in today's era with issues like the content you normally consume on the internet being blocked from your reach, or hackers and scammers stealing your info. Well, ExpressVPN is your solution. Thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. ExpressVPN is a virtual private network that encrypts your data to keep it from being stolen or tracked and can grant you access to blocked content. Many websites and services are blocked in different parts of the world, and some countries censor websites and don't let you surf freely. Like Netflix in the UK has content US Netflix doesn't have, and vice versa. There are countries that won't even let you use Netflix. You know, imagine. And some things are even more expensive online depending on where you live, like airline tickets. How could they do this to us? ExpressVPN allows you to reroute your connection to a server in a country of your choice, making geo restrictions a thing of the past. ExpressVPN is also helpful for preventing your online data from being stolen or monitored without your knowledge, which to me is the equivalent of throwing a freaking car at me through the window. ExpressVPN servers operate at the fastest speeds, they have 24/7 customer support, and it's super easy to use. Just fire up the app and connect with just one click. It's a top-rated VPN provider rated #1 by TechRadar, CNET, and many more. Find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link in the description box below. ExpressVPN.com/newrockstars. Again, that's ExpressVPN.com/newrockstars. Dr. Octopus is coined by Jameson, well, actually by Hoffman, Ted Raimi, Sam's brother. And again, I gotta mention Doctor Strange was taken. Doctor Strange.
Pretty good. It was taken.
Meaning he exists in this film universe, which has proven more than a bit ironic now that Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange 2 for Marvel. And pausing here so J.K. Simmons can make him smile.
Could you pay me in advance?
Otto laments.
And these monstrous thing should be at the bottom of the river, along with me.
And that little hiss from Flo and gradual fade from white to red signals the arms take over from here forward. When they turn white again at the end, Otto will resume with this suicidal thinking, drowning himself in his little monsters in the bottom of the river. Joel McHale cameos as a loan officer.
Oh, but I'm giving piano lessons again. You are?
I love that she meant to kick Peter but kicks Joel. But May's piano teaching might justify why Peter was so randomly good at piano in the third movie, if anything could justify that madness. Otto's climb up the wall has a rhythmic pacing to it. That's because during production, Molina was performing as Hevia in the revival of Fiddler on the Roof, and he would hum under his breath that stompy song, If I Were a Rich Man. And the puppeteers would sing the arm walk with the song. I played piano. Stan Lee cameos pulling someone to safety. Then, in the worst gig ever, Peter leaves the lens cap on. Oh, come on. And he keeps missing out on the last app or cocktail, the gag that the high society movie The Great Gatsby would later call back. And Jay gets engaged to Jameson's astronaut son, John, who becomes Man-Wolf in the comics. And after his powers glitch out again, the Daily Bugle he reads includes a blurb about chronic back pain, maybe a nod to Tobey Maguire's back pain that almost caused him to sit out this movie. Some believe that the later joke could have been a nod to that. But the writers claim that this joke was already written in the script before Tobey's issues came out. Peter dream chats with Uncle Ben's ghost. Under Peter's zip-up, you can actually see he is wearing the red top of his wrestler costume. Peter says, oh, and he junks his suit. With this frame pulled directly from the famous Amazing Spider-Man issue 50, Spider-Man No More. This title also shows up on a Daily Bugle front page. Now, Peter fixes the wheel of his moped that got crushed earlier in the film, and just like that wheel flies out the window, so do his hopes for normalcy. Now the Bugle blames him for rising crime, and he watches a guy get jumped. Originally in the script, this victim was going to be the man who recovered and sold Jameson the suit, a more direct consequence of Peter's retirement. Now, as I pointed out in my breakdown of the previous film, the guy who points Peter to the burning building is the same guy from the bridge. And again, despite this apparent victory, Peter still cannot win. Some poor soul got trapped on the fourth floor. But Peter finally gives into this heroism is pain idea. Inspired by Aunt May swallowing her pride and selling her house.
Sometimes you have to be steady and give up the thing you want to know.
Now, it's pretty obvious that May knows Peter is Spider-Man. I suspect is why she got the kid next door to help her pack up her house, despite his baby arm, fielding Peter with a child's disappointment. He got him! Otto gets Peter's attention by throwing a fucking car at him, just as the face of Rosie was reflected on the glass before her death. MJ's kissy face is reflected briefly on Peter's lenses seconds before her near death. These are the frames Peter literally detaches from, just as he lets go of his dreams of love with MJ, regaining his heroic vision both literally and metaphorically. This close-up was an image focused on by Alex Ross's opening art, bringing Peter full circle with the rediscovery of his power. The Bugle reports he's back, but no photo on the front page, since they wouldn't have any recent photos of Spider-Man to use. Also, the blurb up in the corner reads, MTA insider concerned over aging L-train safety, reflecting the safety concerns for the following L-train sequence. Now, New York did not have an L in operation, so they shot all of this on Chicago's loop. This train fight is one of the best sequences in the superhero genre. Raimi breaks it all up into 3 acts, just like a short film that works on its own. Act 1, Peter versus Otto on the clock tower, a ticking clock as metaphor. Act 2, Peter versus Otto on the train, both victims of destiny together. And in Act 3, Peter alone versus the train, man versus time and destiny itself. It opens with Peter's heroic swings into action, with Raimi pulls out the reveal framed within the deadly threat waiting for him. The sunglasses lens of Doc Ock. No cool moment without an asterisk of how he's about to die. I love this kind of shot. Robert Zemeckis actually used a similar tracking shot mirror reframe in Contact. Very cool way of shifting subjective point of view to the target of the action. When they tumble down onto the train, Otto's arms cushion his body during the roll. Raimi also smartly cuts off into the passengers, including the classic woman with a baby. And briefly, Peter and Otto go inside the car, so that a minute later when Otto starts playing 500 with people, this doesn't come out of nowhere. It But without the ironic detachment that hijacked us as we got older, this is a beaten down hero, ripping on to the one thing he has left after having to let go of everything else he wants. All of this suffering has boiled over, and now Toby is venting pure cathartic rage. It's earned, and I love it. We get some good Christ pose imagery. And again, to return his mask are cameos by Toby's half-brothers after Robbie the editor, May, these passengers, and then, of course, Harry and MJ. Peter's precious anonymity in this film is stripped away from him. When many things get to let go of. Otto wrapped Peter in barbed wire, echoing the moment Peter briefly saw a spider web strung up in a barbed wire coil in the first film. His whole webby world surrounded by a ring of death. Behind Harry's frocked up knife is a framed photo with Norman. I assume this is Harry's revenge table. Peter ends up flipping Otto by repeating Aunt May's wisdom.
Now sometimes to do what's right, we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most. Even our dreams.
Peter can finally deliver this with sincere, honest heartbreak. Because in this moment, he is really talking about his dream with MJ. He truly gets the importance of being earnest. Now, along with John Jameson, I just realized that Jay Jonah and Bachman arrived with the cops too. This guy cannot pass up an opportunity to insert himself in the story in order to sell more papers. Norman Osborn returns inside Harry's mind. Now, a little detail I spotted by going through this frame by frame. When he throws the dagger through the mirror, it briefly switches from Norman to his own reflection, and then back to Norman, who looks pained as the glass breaks. Two generations of Green Goblin becoming one and the same. And then after Harry finds the Goblin Cave, I think most of us got that green bow tie he shows up wearing at the wedding. It's okay if this was a bombshell for you. It's just kind of like baked in for me since I spent the whole summer of 04 rewatching this with like Prisoner of Azkaban. But I love this ending. It parallels the ending of The Graduate. Runaway bride fleeing the church to be with the scrappy dope. But The Graduate's ending is brilliant because it is not a fairy tale ending. It's a bittersweet Hello Darkness bus ride where the young couple catches their breath and realizes, wait, crap, what did we just do? What now? MJ here makes the same realization. She sees his fairy tale ending with her comic's pet name.
Go get him, Tiger.
And for a second, we think it's going to end with another golden sunset heroic swing past the stars and stripes, just like the first movie did. But nope, Raimi cuts back to MJ with dark tones and then ominous fade to black. The bittersweet Graduate Hello Darkness ending, echoing the opening shot of MJ as the love that Peter would never have time for, reminding us that Spider-Man 2 is not a story about heroes win, but how heroism is pain, and every heroic victory is underscored by a dark consequence. As you can see, Spider-Man 2 was one of the all-time best superhero films, filled with awesome attention to detail that other recappers just gloss over because it's not the precious MCU. And I am so thrilled that you guys asked me a month ago to break down a movie that was such a big part of my youth. And if you were there with me in the summer of 2004, I hope this brought back some memories for you. Feel free to share those in the comments instead of, like snarking that I missed some bullshit Ford Focus Easter egg someone pointed out to you without really understanding what the actual movie detail is. Join our future classic movie watch-alongs on Discord by becoming a patron at patreon.com/newrockstars. Follow me on Instagram at EABoss, follow New Rockstars, and subscribe for more in-depth movie breakdowns. Godspeed!
Oh.
Welcome to the Full Story series, where we take some of our older videos and we compile them together to give you almost a cinematic experience. All of the ideas and stuff that we've put into a ton of videos, and today we're going to be covering the Ultimate Spider-Man line, going from his original origins all the way to the death of the Ultimate Spider-Man. I hope you guys enjoy. There is an alternate universe, one that was quite popular at its inception, but it eventually waned from the favor of its readers. This is the Ultimate Universe. Many things are familiar here, while many things are also very contrasting. While there are many things that people liked about this world, in the end, it was destroyed in the Secret Wars. And some of the best parts were then merged with the original Marvel Universe. But that is at the end of the story, and I'm jumping ahead of myself, because I'm here to tell you the magnificent tale of Spider-Man. and we need to go back to the beginning, in a lab. You see, in this universe, the tale is a bit different at the start. Osborn Industries, the company that belonged to Norman Osborn, was conducting experiments, which led to experimenting on a spider, which was accidentally let free from its container. And this brings us to our young 15-year-old Peter Parker, a bookworm with his mind on other things, like his studies and girls, such as Mary Jane. But while his life as a punching bag always took a toll on him, there was someone who gave him hope and helped him through. His Uncle Ben. You see, his parents both died when he was young, and they left him in the care of his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And then, well, he looked after the boy like any father would. Peter was also close friends with the wealthiest kid at school, Harry Osborn, son of Norman Osborn. So, that night after dinner, Harry came by the Parker pad and called him to learn about biology. And that's when Peter explained that his parents were supposedly killed in a plane crash, and that on the board in front of both of the boys was a formula that his father came up with before he died. The next day, the whole school went on a field trip to Osborn Industries, where the fateful act happened. The weird spider from the start of our tale crawled out and bit Peter Parker on the hand, and with that, he hit the ground, right away starting to feel weird. Now this part of the story remains much of the same. A young boy begins to slowly discover that he has powers, everything from strength, speed, and agility. And while this is going on, Norman Osborn had Peter follow. He knew of the spider that bit Peter, and he wanted to know what was happening. Was the boy going to live, or was he going to die? As things progressed, both Peter and Osborn began to see the growth of his abilities. The problem is that with the growth of Peter's abilities, also grew his ego, and eventually he grew cocky. You see, as one of the kids picked on him, he retaliated, and he actually injured one of those kids. The parents demanded that Uncle Ben and Aunt May pay the $2,500 hospital bill for their child, which drove Peter further into his own head. He had these abilities now. Why shouldn't he use them? And why can't he make money from them? He decided to enroll in wrestling matches to win a little money, but of course he had to wear a mask, as they wouldn't let a 15-year-old kid enroll in these things. The story of Peter Parker kept progressing as he excelled in sports and continued to win these matches until eventually he made an actual Spider-Man suit. But back at Osborn Industries, Norman decided that if this kid can gain powers from his formula, why couldn't he? So he has an individual known as Dr. Octavius run various tests on Peter's blood, and they figured out the perfect formula that made Peter into a superpowered individual. Except when they tried to test it on Norman Osborn, Dr. Octavius changed something in the formula. Something that he wanted to do, something that he wanted to alter, and it went wrong. The entire lab was destroyed, and Norman Osborn went missing. Back with Peter, he continued to win at each and every match as Spider-Man. And as it was all working out, Peter was walking home one night when a thug ran up on him after robbing a deli. That was it. The moment that Peter could alter his entire history. This universe could go a completely different path. So what did the Peter Parker of the Ultimate Universe do? He let the robber go. It's not his problem, he told the deli owner. After that, Uncle Ben and Aunt May confronted him at the door to ask about his grades and ask why he was slipping. An argument ensued, and Peter ran off into the night. He ended up at a party with girls coming on to him. Mary Jane upset that she saw him. She did have feelings for Peter, though she didn't really know how to tell him, and seeing him with that other girl, well, she left the party. Peter chased after her, but as he got to the door, Uncle Ben was standing there, because his 15-year-old nephew was now at a party, and he was there to bring him home. He took him outside to ask him why he was doing this. He's such a smart kid. Why waste away his potential on things like these parties? He told Peter various things about his father, things such as responsibility and what this means. He told Peter that his father believed that he was destined for great things. And with all of the great things that he was destined for, great responsibility would come. But that angered Peter more as he wanted to know if his father knew so much, why did he leave? And he ran off into the night, a confused kid. By the time he got home, it was too late. You see, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they were playing cards, and they heard a noise in the back of the house. Ben decided that he would go see what it was, and when he got there, he found a man with a gun pointed at him. The robber demanded money, and Ben laughed, telling him that the robber had more money than any of them. That was it. A gunshot, and Uncle Ben was gone. But Peter wasn't about to lie around while the police failed to find the murderer, and he ran out of the house, changing into his costume. Many of you know where this story goes next, but Peter tracked the murderer down into a warehouse, and the police cornered him. He crawled in, and after pinning the man down, he realized that it was the same man, the one that he failed to stop after the deli robbery. If he had stood up and done the right thing at that moment, this never would have happened. So he strung the robber up, refusing to kill him. Peter thought back to the full conversation that Uncle Ben had with him about his father, and he remembered the words exactly. Great things are going to happen in your life, Peter. Great things. And with that will come great responsibility. He looked at his mask with tears in his eyes, telling himself, I do now. He went off to become the hero that he was meant to be, saving kids from a burning building, beating up robbers and thugs, and stopping the crime of the city. And when he got home, he saw Mary Jane. She saw him and told him that Aunt May was staying at her house with her parents. He tried to talk to her, but he broke down crying. She held him while he cried it out. But how was the rest of the city taking this turn of events? Well, J. Jonah Jameson wasn't exactly taking it lightly, because he saw a guy running around in his underwear and assumed that he had to be a menace. So he wants as much information as he can get on this Spider-Man. While this is happening, Spider-Man is off inventing some new technology to go with his whole Spider-Man image. Basically, he created some web shooters using his father's formula for a molecular adhesive. It's strong, it's sticky, and he can shoot it out of his wrist thanks to some web shooters. The next day at school, Harry finally returned to school after losing his father in a freak lab accident, and as Peter is checking in on him, his new spider sense begins to go on. And following that, there's a loud boom! Fire and smoke begin to spew out of the school as Peter runs through the hallways trying to figure out what's going on. And it's Harry who seems to know as he's shouting, "Help me! He's here!" Using that as his entrance, Spider-Man arrives and he bolts into the building to see what exactly is happening. With the sprinklers above raining on his head, Spider-Man calls out to whoever did this, and a very large man in a torn cloak stands in front of him. As a hall monitor, I'm going to have to ask you for your hall pass. And the man's eyes glow. He begins to hurl fireballs at Spider-Man. He bounces off of the walls, alerting our villain to the fact that this is a fire hazard, and he throws the mysterious villain into the lockers. The villain gets up and begins to swing, continuing his silence as Spider-Man continues his jokes, until eventually the villain slams Spider-Man into a wall, launching him out of the school. He continues to squeeze Spider-Man, keeping him from breathing, and then he lands in a park and he jumps again. As they're leaping through the air, his cloak begins to come off, and Spider-Man sees a big green goblin face, which growls the word, "Parker." Spider-Man looks at him. "Who are you?" And instead of responding, he throws Spider-Man down into the streets below. He begins to panic. How could I survive this? Is this the end already? Until it dawns on him. His webbing! He whips it towards one building and then another building, begging for this to work. And then like a giant trampoline, it propels him back into the sky. He cheers out, excited that it actually worked, and then he thinks to himself, I wonder if my other idea will work. And he whips onto a nearby building, swinging into action and landing square into the goblin's back. As he gets a couple of shots in, the goblin reaches up, grabbing his head, and he throws him back into the ground. He throws out two more thwips, but the goblin dodges, and it attaches to the nearby helicopter. While they both stand there staring at each other, another problem has presented itself, as the goblin now sees the looky-loos who have joined the fight, and he begins to sprint off towards them. Spider-Man tries to attach his webbing to the goblin, but he has too much sheer strength, and he pulls Spider-Man right off of the wall. He then throws his cloak into the air with Spider-Man still attached, and he leaps up to the level of the helicopters. His hands begin to burn brightly as he prepares to throw more fireballs at them. And as Spider-Man gets between the goblin and the helicopters, he shouts, "Stand down! I won't let you hurt these people!" But that's the moment that the officers in the helicopter take their shots, peppering the goblin's chest with bullets. Spider-Man calls out to them to stop shooting as the goblin holds his chest, all bloodied, and he looks at Spider-Man. "Parker!" he shouts as he leaps at him, but Spider-Man jumps over his head, dodging him, allowing the goblin to fall into the bay, where he falls deeper and deeper into the water. He turns to the police, telling them that they have to save the guy if they can, but instead the police open fire on Spider-Man. He dodges and he rolls out of the way, getting out of sight, before changing back into Peter and going back to the school. He stumbles out of the school, claiming that he was under a chalkboard. Mary Jane rushes over, giving him a huge hug. Harry decides to tell everyone who that was at that very moment, and he informs the group that it was his father. Norman Osborn did not die in the lab. He changed into that thing, and now he's after Harry to kill him. As the police bring Harry in for questioning, Peter can't help but wonder what's to come next. Our story begins as a man stands over a group of security guards, telling them that he's pretty sure he didn't get paid enough to take another hit, so they should probably just give him the money. Panicking, one of the guards tells him, "Just take the money, take whatever you want." And our mysterious man tells him, "No, I want you to crawl and bring it to me." And then a voice tells him, "You're so..." Peter swings by punching the man, asking, "Who are you supposed to be? The vibrator?" The man lifts his arms up to try and shock Peter, but as he does, Peter whips out his web onto the man's device and he ends up shocking him. The security guards get up and Peter asks if they're okay. They may want to call but one of the guards stops him, assuming he's also a criminal. "Just take the money!" Confused, Peter tells him, "What? No, just call the cops, will you?" The next day at school, Peter overhears some of the students talking about Spider-Man showing up in Brooklyn. One of them mentions that the paper was offering money for pictures of Spider-Man, which gives Peter an idea. So after school, he heads home and sets his camera up to begin taking photos. And as he does, he asks himself if he's really doing this. He really needs money, but it's a bit much. The next day, J. Jonah Jameson is shouting to everyone that he doesn't care what they want, he wants pictures of Spider-Man. And that's when he meets Peter Parker, holding out a picture of Spider-Man. Everyone stops to look at Jonah, takes the stack, asking, "Where in good God's green earth did you get these?" Peter Peter tells him, I called in a little while ago about them. I got them when Spider-Man came to my school. Jonah looks at them and asks, did you take these pictures? Peter tells him, yeah. So he starts sifting through all the photos, telling him, each one of these is crap. From the bunch, there's one that he pulls out. Jonah eyeballs Peter up and down and he says, how old are you? I'm 16, sort of. Jonah tells him, fine, I'll give you 50 for it. But before Peter can ask anything, Betty Brant begins to scream at her computer, shouting that she will light this whole place on fire. Jonah asks her what's wrong, and Betty tells him that she's an associate book editor, not a web designer, and she can't get this thing to work. It constantly freezes. Peter looks down at the screen and tells them that he sees the problem, and with a few clicks, he clears out the script error. Jonah begins signing over the payment of the pictures and asks Peter again, how old are you? You go to school or something? Need a job? After accepting the job, Peter heads home for the night, and as he sleeps, he begins to have the same nightmare that's been haunting him ever since Uncle Ben's death. He wakes up screaming that he couldn't stop it. He just couldn't stop it. So the next day, he decides he's going to go look up information on that robber. And as he enters in the information, two links pop up, one with an image. The image shows the man with other thugs. And through a link of all of the thugs, Peter realizes that the man at the top of the list is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. Afterward, Peter spies the three thugs that he saw in the photo with Uncle Ben's killer. As the men head into their hideout, Peter kicks the men inside, telling everyone that he's here to sign up for the wet t-shirt contest. Dan goes to grab his gun, but Peter whips his webs out, knocking the gun out of his hand. The bigger man, Ox, steps up, and Peter punches him with all he's got. And quickly realizes punching Ox may not have been the best idea. He swings, knocking Peter into Dan, and then Montana cracks her whip, wrapping it around Peter's neck. She tells everyone that this is just a Fed trick. They need to throw this kid out and bolt the doors. Ox tells him that he's just being paranoid, but as Ox tries to swing again, Peter jumps up onto the wall. As he lands, he pulls on Montana's whip, and he throws him into Ox. He then webs up the two of them and throws Dan into the group. Peter looks at them and tells them, I know you guys work for the Kingpin. I would like to know where he's at. So they go ahead and spill the beans. They tell him that Kingpin is holding a fundraiser at his office on Friday. A real MVP, VIP sort of thing. Real legit. Peter then realizes that they're kind of spilling the beans on a lot of information and asks, why are you telling me all of this? The man says he works for Kingpin. Doesn't mean he has to like him. Seconds later, the front door is kicked in by two FBI agents bursting in, telling everyone to freeze. The woman stops for a moment and then says, it's him! It's Spider-Man! Peter tells them that it's really not what it looks like, and the agents tell him to put his hands in the air. Thinking quickly, he tells them, look at the time! I've really got to get going, and he jumps over the agents and swings away. The next day, Peter stops on a newsstand to read the headline, Spider-Man, Mob Menace. Later that night, as Peter heads over to the big VIP MVP thing that Kingpin's doing, he gets to the tower and he watches as Kingpin gives his speech. Peter tells himself that he's going to find a way to expose Kingpin, all of the drugs, thievery, and murder. All he does is write a check and suddenly he's a good guy? Ironic, really. People think that Kingpin is a good guy and Spider-Man is a bad guy. As Peter climbs up through the window, he begins to search through Kingpin's office, and then he suddenly notices a lens in the distance. Peter tells him that he's starting to get a funny feeling when things start to feel like they're about to go wrong again, almost like a spider sense kind of thing. And suddenly Kingpin appears reaching out, grabbing him. He asks if there's anything that he can do for him. And Peter spins around punching him, realizing that he's got to stop punching giant guys. Kingpin grabs a hold of his arm, asking who sent him, and through the pain of having his arm crushed, Peter tells him, Carson Daly! He kicks himself away, and Kingpin tells Electro to take care of this. He needs to get back down to his guests. Out of the group of men behind Peter, one man's eyes begin to glow, and electricity begins to spark around him. Electro fires the bolt of electricity, zapping away at Peter. Kingpin tells Electro that this is his office, you know. And after a few more blasts, Electro finally hits him. He tells him that he's sorry about the room, but this really isn't exact science or anything. And Kingpin tells him to just take off the mask. One of the men pulls Peter's mask off to see that he's a kid. He then tells the men to call for Mr. Big. His presence is required. And Electro asks, what are we going to do about the kid? Toss him out the same way that he came in. And also find this Carson Daly person and destroy him. As Peter's body is thrown out the window, he slowly begins to wake up and tries to catch himself along the building. But as he does, he grabs onto a window by the ballroom and everyone watches as he slides down and falls off. A little while later, Peter heads home telling himself that he messed up bad. He got electrocuted, had his web shooters crushed, and his mask ripped off and then thrown out of skyscraper. Maybe he shouldn't have gone down there. The next day at Kingpin's tower, Kingpin shows Mr. Big Peter's mask, telling him, I had a visitor last night. Come into the office. He came into the office and started a fight, almost ruining my dinner party. Mr. Big laughs, stating, he sounds like that's Gavoots, Martha Stewart. The entire room goes silent. Mr. Big says, it's starting to sound like you have elevated yourself above all of us here common thugs, Mr. Kingpin. Rumor has it that you can't even get your hands dirty anymore. And Kingpin decides to respond to that. Finally, Mr. Big takes a stand. And then he looks at Ox and Montana, telling them, it's time to pick a side. Ox and Montana grab a hold of Mr. Big's arms, telling him, you have to understand. Kingpin takes off Mr. Big's hat and then slides Peter's mask onto him and begins to wrap his hands around his head. Kingpin's hands begin to come together and his grip begins to get tighter, and Mr. Big begins to scream out in pain. Until finally, he stops screaming. The next morning, Peter watches the news as reports of the body of Mr. Big floating down the river wearing the mask of Peter are being aired. He tells himself being demasked isn't the worst thing to happen to a superhero. This right here is the worst thing that can happen to a superhero. The next day in class, the teacher begins to review what type of man Richard Nixon was when he was president and why he had everything recorded. The class begins to shout out answers, and one of them says that he was paranoid, to which the teacher tells him that that is correct. The teacher goes on asking, why would a paranoid man record all of the questionable dialogue? And Peter remembers back to when he saw the security footage in Kingpin's office. And he says, because he thought he was untouchable. After class, Peter begins searching online for security systems and finds the company name rather quickly, so he has an idea. And he emails the company stating that he's interested in getting security for his business, and he would like information on some of the systems that they use for their larger businesses. After heading home for that day, he checks his computer to find the security company emailed him back and told him the exact model that all of the large companies use, as well as a link to the technical pages for how they work. After watching everything that they've given him, he realizes that they record everything as DVDs, and he needs to get those DVDs. Because not only will they have a video of him being demasked, but it also will allow him to find out what the Kingpin has been doing. Later that night, Peter sets out and sneaks into Kingpin's tower. And once he gets inside, he sneaks up on the security guard who's monitoring the security system, knocking him out. Meanwhile, back upstairs, Kingpin talks with Electro and his men regarding the fact that they need to find that Spider-Man kid. Downstairs, Peter is fighting off the second security guard, and the guard fires a few shots, hitting the building's electrical panels. Suddenly, the whole building loses power. Now, with everyone knowing that someone is here, Peter runs over to the security server and rips the door off of the hinges. He cycles through a few discs and takes the ones with the date of him being there and a few of the extra ones. He then packs up and gets a funny feeling, and a bolt of electricity shoots by. He barely dodges the strike, and then a whip lashes out, wrapping around his neck. Peter looks back, he sees Electro, and Electro tells him, don't worry, this will only hurt a lot. Peter manages to break free from the whip and begins fighting everyone and dodging their attacks. Dan starts shooting, but Peter asks him, how many times do I have to tell you? No guns! And he webs up his hands again. Before jumping away, Ox grabs a hold of Peter's leg and begins slamming him back and forth into the computers. Peter lays on the ground. Ox grabs him by the neck and tells him, we should go on and bring you to the Kingpin. But as everyone looks at Peter, he shouts, acting! Ta-da! And he kicks Montana and Electro away. Electro fires the bolt, but Peter dodges out of the way of that one, and the bolt ends up hitting Ox. Montana, in response to that, cracks her whip as Electro is apologizing. And at the end of the whip is getting closer, Peter grabs it and pulls it to bring Montana to him and then kicks him back down. With Ox and Montana down, Electro begins firing away trying to hit Peter, so he jumps down, grabbing him by the wrist, telling him, I'm kind of curious as to how you got your powers. Are you a mutant? And Electro responds with, are you? Peter tells him that he asked first, so Electro tells him he's not a mutant. But why would you care anyway? Peter responds with, I'm a huge science geek, so I'm kind of sort of into this stuff. I will say this, after they take care of you, we're going to be going after your friends and your family. They're all going to be fried. And Peter tells him, if that's the case, then you can't be mad about me doing this. He kicks a water pipe and throws Electro into the boiling water. The water electrocutes him, and soon he begins to fall over. Looking down at everyone, Peter hears Ox trying to wake up. So he jumps down on him and tells him that if he wants to do the right thing, marks that incredibly stupid butt over to the comp and confess what they did. And then he begins to run towards the exit, thinking to himself, he did it! He really did it! How cool is he? But before he can open the door, Kingpin's voice tells him, there is no way that you're going to leave here alive. So, who are you working for? Peter stops and tells him, I had something prepared for the next time we ever met, so okay, here goes. You're so fat that when you cut yourself shaving, marshmallow fluff comes out. Kingpin stares at him, and Peter goes on. You're so fat that your high school yearbook photo was taken from a helicopter. Kingpin starts to grind his teeth. Peter goes on to say another, but Kingpin begins yelling and charges after him. Peter jumps, telling him, hold on, I got one more! And just as the Kingpin reaches him, he dodges the rest of his attacks. For such an evil, arrogant guy, you think he can just walk over everyone. Kingpin begins to punch away again, and as he does, Peter webs his arms to the wall, telling him that he really didn't come here for a fight. So he shouts, you're a dead man! And then Peter webs his face. As everything goes dark, Kingpin rips himself from the wall and tears away at the webbing on his face. By nothing. The next day at the Daily Bugle, writer Ben Urich sits at his desk watching a video of the murder of Mr. Big. He then reads a note left to him that enclosed all sorts of goodies on Kingpin. P.S. Not for the squeamish. Elsewhere, Kingpin begins to read the headline, American Kingpin of Crime Caught on Tape. Whereabouts unknown. His lawyer tells him not to worry, he'll get him out of this. But really, someone was murdered and it was caught on tape. Kingpin looks at him and walks away. During all of this, Peter Parker and Mary Jane have been having an interesting relationship. He wants to go out with her, she seems to like him, but she's also seeing a bunch of other people. It's kind of confusing, but it's typical high school drama. But the next day after all of those events happen, after school, Peter sits nervously with Mary Jane sitting on his bed and tells her, so yeah, there's something I wanted to tell you. She stares at him, telling him okay. And he tells her, really, you can't tell anyone, like ever. And she tells him okay. And Peter tells her, you gotta promise. So she says she promises. And after a few awkward moments of silence, he tells her, I'm Spider-Man. She looks at him and asks, "What did you say? Like the superhero Spider-Man?" He tells her yes, and she bursts out laughing, so much so that she falls off the bed. She tells him to shut up. He's being such a goofball right now. He says that he knew that he would have to do this, and he begins jumping from wall to wall. She watches and stares, and Peter asks if she's going to be okay, and then she begins to scream. Peter tells her to be quiet. Aunt May's home, so you got up. And then May's voice shouts, "What's going on up there? Better not be any hanky-panky." After finally controlling herself, Mary Jane asks, "How did it happen?" Peter explains that it happened when he went to Harry's dad's work and the spider bit him. That's when she realizes that the spider almost bit her, and she could have been Spider-Man too. And then the next part of the conversation goes on. So what is he going to do because he's Spider-Man? And can she see the costume? Over at the medical facility, two doctors begin to review their newest patient. They begin to try and decide whose turn it is to clean out Dr. Octopus's bedpan. When the man slowly begins to wake up, Otto Octavius asks, "Why would you call me that? My name is Otto." And a metal arm begins to rise as he shouts, asking, "Why did you call me that?" Meanwhile, over at Midtown High, Peter and the rest of his classmates head over to the school pep rally. Kong mentions that he's starting to think that their new assignment of making a report on which superhero they would like to be seems pretty dumb. Everyone tells him that maybe it's him who's dumb, but Kong says that he's not so sure. All of these superheroes and mutants popping up. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe they should be watching out. Peter asks, "What do you mean by watch out?" Kong says that he's not sure. He just feels like there's going to be some real trouble real soon. A voice then tells her that it's a meteor, and everyone looks over to see a blonde girl standing along the wall. She says that it's kind of like when the meteor wiped out the dinosaurs, except for them, they know it's coming. She goes on telling everyone that things will be fine, because in a sense, they all have superpowers in their own way, even if they're not superpowered or mutants. Kong asks, "Who are you?" The girl tells him, Gwen Stacy. And it's her first day here, back over at the medical facility. Otto Octavius begins to wake up, and Hank Pym sits on his bed, telling him that it's good that he's awake, but it's time that they talk. He explains that there was an accident in Osborne Industries that left him in a coma for the last 3 months. Otto says that he doesn't really remember what happened, and as he tries to process it, he begins to feel the metal arms. He asks what have they done to him, and Hank goes on stating that during that accident, he suffered damage to his face and neck areas. But more notably, it seems that he was fused with his own mechanical harness. Though they're not sure as to how, the arms are locked into his central nervous system, and they react and function like normal arms. Otto Octavius leans up and shouts at them to take off his bandages, and as they slowly comes off, he sees the arms. Hank tells them that it could be a breakthrough with exciting possibilities. Perhaps they could work together. And Otto says that they found him like this. They could have taken this off of him, but they chose not to? Who do they think they are? Hank says that they can't say, but they are the United States government, and they can't really tell him where he is. The metal arms begin flailing, and one shoots through the chest of one of the other doctors. Otto then looks back over to Hank, demanding to know where he is. The next day at school, Kong comes to a conclusion that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Flash Thompson tells him that he's absolutely crazy, like completely crazy. But Kong says that it makes sense. That day in the field trip, Peter Parker got bitten by a spider, so he's Spider-Man. Just think about it, he broke a desk, he's super good at basketball now. That means that he's Spider-Man. Flash begins to laugh, and Kong tells him, watch. He's gonna go kick Peter, and when he dodges it, that'll show everyone. Over at his locker, Peter's spider sense begins to go off, but instead of dodging it, he flat out takes the hit. In pain, Peter looks back asking, why would you do something like that? Through the crowd of students, a voice then asks what's their problem, and Gwen walks up to Kong, telling him that if he ever does that again, then everyone notices that Gwen's holding a knife. A teacher comes by asking what's going on, and as he gets through, Gwen drops the knife, obviously, because she doesn't want to get caught with it. The teacher then grabs Gwen by the arm and tells her that it's a great way to start her second day of school. Later, after school in the city, a man begins to run off after grabbing a woman's purse. The man tells everyone to watch it as he runs, and then suddenly, the purse is whipped out of his hand. Peter then jumps in, kicking the man, stating that feels better. He was looking for a big bald guy to knock out. The man tries to fight back, but Peter knocks him in the head and webs him to the ground. He then hops over, telling the woman that he brought back her purse. It was his pleasure to help. But everyone, including the woman who was wrong, just stared at him. She grabs the purse and begins to run off. And Peter begins to say to everyone openly, why can't a guy in his underwear just go around the city helping people without them thinking that he's crazy or something? Back as Peter looks around, he notices that he's in front of the Daily Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson is watching. He asks if he's the guy who's been printing all of that garbage about him just to sell papers. Because if so, he has one thing to say to him. He jumps up shouting, love it, it's hysterical, and he leaves. J. Jonah Jameson looks around and says that he thought Spider-Man was going to hit him. Maybe they should get back inside where it's safe. But as Jonah begins to move, he falls flat on his face with webbing covering his feet. Once inside, writer Ben Ulrich said that he got a lead on a recent murder on a woman in her home. The previous owner of the home was Dr. Otto Octavius. He explains that Otto was one of the chief scientists at Osborne Industries, one of the individuals that was thought dead during the explosion where Norman Osborn went missing. But he was in fact not dead. Sources state that Otto was taken to a government hospital somewhere in South Jersey, where he managed to escape. It's also said that Otto was being observed because of complications in his condition brought on by the explosion. J. Jonah Jameson asks, what does he mean by complications? And Ben tells him that he's unsure, but after what happened with Norman Osborn turning into the Goblin, it's safe to say that something fishy is going on. Jonah tells him it's okay, let's just assume that Otto killed the woman in her home. So the next question is, why? Ben says that no one would really know. Maybe he didn't expect her there when he went back to his old home, or maybe something horrible happened to him and he's gone crazy. Then outside of the office, Peter sits listening as Jonah tells Ben to go on. See what the good doctor has to say. Later that night, Otto Octavius sits in an office, talking to himself. He knows what happened. It's all his fault. He paid him to give him his secrets from Norman. And when he ran out of uses for him, he tried to get rid of him. The only problem is, Otto Octavius doesn't know who he is. Otto shouts that he should have made sure that he was dead because now he's going to make him pay for what he has done to him. The next day, Peter heads over to work, but while on his way there, he catches the TV showing off Kraven the Hunter. Kraven tells everyone that he and his TV show are coming from Australia all the way over to America to film his show. He has a big surprise for everyone, but he isn't going to be making the announcement of what it is until he reaches the States. A little while later, Peter overhears some of the workers talking about a breaking story about some man with mechanical arms climbing hammer towers and trying to break in. Peter begins to think about it for a moment, and then he remembers back to when he was at Norman Osborn's facility, and he met Otto Octavius, an individual who used a device that had mechanical arms attached to it. After getting off of work, Peter suits up and heads over to Hammer Towers to find out what's going on. And he finds Justin Hammer speaking with two SHIELD agents. They ask Justin Hammer if he knows who Dr. Otto Octavius is, and Justin tells them no. But the agents look at him and Justin says that he just met him. Agent Carter then says that Colonel Fury would need a better answer than that. Carter then goes on to explain how Otto was fused with the machine that gave him mechanical arms. But the explosion at Norman's plant left him with amnesia. He seems to have come here for something. After they talk for a little while, Justin notices something in the window when he sees Spider-Man's head. The two agents spin around firing their blasters, barely missing Spider-Man. And Spider-Man figures that it might be as good a time as any to leave. Next morning, Kraven the Hunter's plane touches down in New York while his fans and reporters gather around to find out what his big announcement is. One reporter runs up telling him the world wants to know what he's going to be hunting in New York of all places, and he couldn't be hunting anywhere else. Kraven smiles, stating, I'm here to hunt a very special kind of species. I'm here to hunt the one that they call Spider-Man. The reporter then asks, what's he going to do when he finds Spider-Man? And Kraven tells him, I'm going to kill him with my bare hands. While Kraven makes his announcement, Peter watches back home, trying to figure out what he's going to do now. He's at Kraven the Hunter, a guy who's known for hunting down things and killing them, chasing him. A week later, he heads to school and begins his social studies class when Gwen Stacy is let back into the classroom. She tells everyone that she's sorry for pulling a knife and doesn't want anyone to think of her as a crazy girl. But one thing that she does want to say is that she doesn't like bullies. Gwen takes her seat and the teacher says that they're going to the school assembly in about 10 minutes. But if they have any questions regarding their superhero project, now is the time to ask. One of the girls says that she feels like the assignment is a bad idea. This is supposed to be a social studies class, not a superhero dress-up class. Not long ago, the school was attacked by a mutant. Now they're supposed to dress up as one? The teacher says that the assignment is supposed to help them study the environment from a different perspective. And the girl responds with, it doesn't matter. She talked to her mother, and she will be bringing it up at the next PTA meeting, because mutant things shouldn't even be in a classroom. The teacher turns around asking if anyone else feels the same way, and Gwen smiles and raises her hand. Meanwhile, over in New York City, Justin Hammer heads out of his press conference while speaking with one of the scientists from his New Jersey facility. Justin tells him that they're going to need some major firepower. He needs to back up right away. The scientists state that their experiments are going smoothly and on track, but currently their subject, Clint Marco, is still adjusting to the experiments. A screen that changes to a man squirming in sand and screaming. Justin asks what the hell was that, and the scientist says that's Flint and the Sandman Project. The scientist then goes on to ask why he doesn't just accept the assistance of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Justin tells him that he will not, mainly because they're going to look around his facilities and they will find that he's in violation of the superhero test ban. That and how Otto Octavius was an industrial spy for him and that was sent over to Osborne Industries, and now believes that this explosion was somehow Justin Hammer's fault. A short while later, Justin arrives at a conference where he's about to announce the Energy Dome Project, a power plant offering an abundance of affordable and alternative energy sources. As he takes the stage, he explains that they are currently unveiling a groundbreaking energy technology with a hybrid of solar, electric, and nuclear energies. But as the announcement goes on, the video feed from the dome shows the scientists being attacked by Otto Octavius. Back at the school, the students all gather around for the assembly where the principal announces that they've all been brought here today to be informed that the school has been chosen to be the filming site for the Kraven the Hunter show. But as he goes on explaining the do's and the don'ts, he's told that there has been some trouble in the city, and the school is currently being placed under a lockdown. While the students all begin to panic, Mary Jane looks at Peter and tells him to go. Over at the dome, the police begin to arrive by helicopter, but one of the pilots tells the other that he may have a stowaway. The second pilot asks, what does he need? And they both realize that hanging from a web, Spider-Man says that this idea was so much better in theory. One of the officers attempts to shoot Spider-Man, and he tells them to please stop and try to help. Then he swings, dodging the gunfire, and as he releases and crashes into the facility, he gets up yelling, ta-da! And then he sees Otto Octavius standing there with a dead scientist. After seeing the destruction caused by Otto Octavius, Peter goes to check on the surviving scientists that are crawling out of the debris. He tells the man to hang on, and then his spider sense begins to go off. Metal arms begin to shoot past Peter, hitting him in the head and knocking him down. Otto picks up Peter's body, asking, what is this ridiculousness? Peter mumbles out some words, and Otto leans in, asking, what? Peter tells him, you're one to talk, and he claps his hands to the side of Otto's head. As Doc Ock stumbles backward, Peter kicks free by kicking him in the head and then knocking away his glasses. Otto goes to cover his eyes, and Peter tells him that that's the least of his problems. First of all, why the green jumpsuit? Peter webs up the metal arms, and as they flail around, the web stretches, and then it snaps. Peter realizes that this could be a problem. The arms begin whipping around, and Peter blocks and dodges them. And then one of them shoots up, hitting him in the head. Doc Ock then picks up Peter's body and tries to hit him. But while Peter tries to defend himself, one of the arms begins to change, and it shocks Peter. His body is flung from the facility to the outside, where it bounces onto the pier. He then starts to wake back up and realizes that he can hear voices. And then his spider sense goes off again. He looks back to see the police SWAT team surrounding him, all pointing their guns at him. One of the officers shouts for him not to move, or they'll blow off his mutant freak head. The officers then get down and begin to place Spider-Man in handcuffs. But Agent Carter steps up, stating that she'll take it from here. The officers all argue that this is their bust. But while Agent Carter and the officer go on, Peter points, asking if Charlton Heston is over there. And of course everyone looks. He jumps up on the grips of the SHIELD officers, and he begins to web up everyone before jumping off of the pier and into the water. Agent Carter shouts for everyone to go after him, but as the agents jump in after Peter, all they find is his torn suit. A little while later, he heads home to watch the news, and on it, Justin Hammer states that he's not sure who that Spider-Man guy was, but they all have their concerns if he is the one who attacked. Peter shouts, come on! And Mary Jane tells him to just ignore it. He says that he's just trying to help people, but instead he keeps getting his butt kicked every time he goes out. Mary Jane suggests that maybe he should learn some kung fu or something, but really she needs to get going anyway. He can work on that later. She then gives him a kiss and says that she'll be by tomorrow after school so they can patch up the costume. Once Mary Jane leaves, Peter sits back down to watch the news, and all of the reporters begin to say how hopefully Kraven will be around to teach that weasel Spider-Man a real lesson. But as Peter sits back down trying to figure out what his next move is, he hears Aunt May's voice asking his own. He begins to panic as he's still in half of his Spider-Man costume, and he jumps out of the basement and crawls up to the bathroom. As he stumbles through the window, May hears that thump from upstairs and asks what's going on. Peter says that he's having stomach problems, but he'll be fine. She tells him okay, well, she brought him dinner just in case he needs anything. And the next day at school, the camera crews begin to set up their scene with Kraven when one of the workers explains to everyone that they need to try and act natural when Kraven comes in. All of the students begin to gather around, and Gwen sees Peter and asks what happened. Did those jerks beat him up again? Peter tells her no, he just fell, all. Mary Jane says yeah, down the stairs. But as Mary Jane gives Peter a glaring look, Gwen checks on his face, and Kraven walks in. He heads over to the hole that was created in the fight between Spider-Man and Goblin, and he begins to sniff. Everyone watches as he examines the hole, and then he turns back. Peter looks as Kraven begins to sniff through the crowd, and then he shoots a look right towards Peter Parker. And he keeps moving. Gwen asks if it's just her, or does that guy vaguely smell like kitty litter? Kraven stops and glares at her.